Hi everyone, this is Group 6 and we are here to talk about our assessment 1 of OPS 937 in the conflict. In the first, we go through the introduction. In the conflict arises whenever interests collide, said by Morgan 1997. We think that's a common situation we can see in project management. And the conflict management and all party decision making are two important tasks for any project manager. And I think as a project manager, most of them they will face this situation. The correct decision in conflicting situation by considering the relevant biases could help project managers to solve the critical problems and lead to the archive organizational goals. This report will focus on the clips from the movie Mars, which I believe most of you have watched, to analyze the conflicting situation between two characters, Hannah and Martha, in relation to activities of private mining company Nukram in hands of the project management. This report will also reflect on the cause of the conflicting situation of the video case study and how this affected the decision-making process of individual characters. It will discuss and analyze how different biases took over those movie characters, which eventually had a follow-on effect on the project. This report will also aim to find a strategy for the project manager to reduce the negative impacts of conflicting situations while finding potential positive outcomes from it and to achieve organizational goals. For this video case, we're talking about some influence of bias on the decision making process. The first one is the confirmation biases. In the fictitious story, confirmation bias is evident the actions and decisions of the criminal industry. And confirmation bias refers to a tendency in individual to favor information that confirms their pre-existing belief or values, with disregarding or downplaying contradictory evidence. In the individual fictory stories, the bias can be observed in the decision making process of the grooming industry as they prioritize their profit driving goals and dismiss the IMSF's concerns about potential life forms in the water they discovered. And also, the Lucrams industry primary focus is on their profit-driving goals, lead them to dismiss the INS's concerns about potential life forms in the water they discovered on Mars. In the so we also have some strategy to address this confirmation bias in the Mars project. First is to providing a training critical thinking and decision-making skill, equipping the employees with the tools to recognize and address their own biases, and try to promoting the transparency and openness in the decision-making process, ensuring that all relevant information and perspectives are considered. And let's move this to my next teammates.
My colleagues and I observed some very common human biases in the case study clips. One of them is cognitive bias. According to Israeli psychologists Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman, who coined the term cognitive bias, it comprises a set of predictable mental errors arising from the inability to process information objectively. In the case study, our conclusions were made primarily by observing Martha Kamen, a Russian and IMSF geologist and exobiologist. She's enraged by the capitalistic ambitions of the Lucram crew, whom she despises. This anger is fueled when she discovers that Lucram had found an aquifer and failed to disclose it to her. In this rage, she makes several decisions that proves she's being blinded by cognitive bias. The evidence includes accusing her crew member of sleeping with the enemy just because he had a relationship with a girl working for Lucram, and accusing her IMSF captain Hannah of siding with the Hannah team, Lucram team, even though Hannah was just obeying IMSF orders. Hannah was also mourning her sister, but Thomas' rationality overrides her empathy. Also, driving along towards Lucram and ending up in an almost fatal hypothermic state when communication lines are temporarily destroyed by a solar flare. There are some of the ways we can avoid cognitive bias. First one is politeness. Politeness in addressing issues opens room for dialogue and reason. The second one is critical thinking. Taking calm moments to think deeply before making decisions is key. The last one is risk assessment. A logical analysis of potential risks is also crucial in avoiding this bias.
Thanks all for viewing our presentation. In previous slide, Shuming highlighted influence of biases in decision making, which was evident into this video case study. I'll reflect on conflict in next couple of slides. Let's talk about the influence of conflict on project management from the video case study. It is quite clear there is an organizational conflict between IMSF and Lucram. Also, there is internal conflicting situation between IMSF project manager Hannah Sheung and exobiologist Marta Kemen. In traditional view, all conflicts are bad, but in modern theory, certain level of conflict help organization and project to function at optimum level. Whereas if conflicts are too low or goes beyond the limit, it could be dysfunctional. So project manager need to be aware of level of conflict. It needs intervention at right moment to function at optimum level. In the case study, it is shown that Marta, as a scientist, has high mission belief, and her goal is to explore this planet Mars and protect it. Hannah disregard for what Lucram is doing on Mars, including the main exploration and excavation work, offset Martian. The conflict between the two does not have a common goal value orientation and is dysfunctional. As seen in video, Marta made her own choice and bypassed Captain Hannah's direction and risked her life to collect sample from Lucram's side. On the contrary, by knowing Marsha's passions for the planet and contribution for the project, she failed to acknowledge her concern and failed to find alternative solution. So what was the source of conflict between these two personalities? The interpersonal conflict resulted from the role conflict. It was a problem in perception, the way they are expected to do their jobs. The other source of conflict, Hannah and Marta, was interpersonal conflict resulting from communication problem and negative workplace behavior. So what could have been done in this situation? We can see from this diagram here, uh, based on concern for the team member and concern for project manager himself or herself, project manager has choices to resolve conflict situation in 5 different ways. So use avoidance technique, use force, use accommodation, use collaboration strategy. I will explain in next slide how project manager can choose option smartly to de-escalate situation by understanding level of escalation to the conflict situation. As seen in this first diagram here, if used properly by the project manager, level 1 and 2 escalation of conflict may be positive for the organization, whereas level 3, 4, 5 conflicts involve emotions of conflicting members and they are crucial. So they need to be understood properly and correct strategy to be in place to de-escalate. For example, in the video case study, level of conflicts between Marta and Hannah is at level 3. So they are contesting. It is the strategy to win over resolving. Often conversation include personal attacks, which is evident in the video case. So to de-escalate, the project manager, Captain Hannah, should have taken this strategy, which is accommodation strategy to solve the problem. The reason being it was a minor personal issue, and in terms of scale of projects. So she should acknowledge Marta's passions and contribution to the projects, rather showing her superiority over Marta. As project manager, she should keep the negotiation terms open and get facts to find alternative solution to de-escalate the situation. This is quite clear at the end of the video, where Lukram commander and Hana was collaborating and made concession to be in the same page. Even Mars mission chief hold up the incident and did not let it escalate further conflict. So accommodating Martha could not be a wrong decision. Our next speaker will conclude on presentation.
Thanks, Max. And for the conclusions, this report begins by explaining the difference between confirmation bias and cognitive bias. Then analyze the reasons for the conflict between Hana and Martha. No matter from their identities, experiences, positions, or values, including the way of dealing with things, they all have an impact on the occurrence of the conflict. The past experience of the two also brought different prejudices. Therefore, according to the specific causes and characteristics of different prejudices, different solutions are proposed, mainly for organizations and individuals. So for organizations, it is more necessary to solve the factors that can cause conflicts as much as possible before conflicts arise, and try to be fair and transparent, such as developing more communication channels to reduce misunderstandings and conflicts caused by untimely communication, more transparent and open decision-making and systems are as fair as possible. Organizations are also obliged to conduct risk control and assessment of the projects they undertake. And for the individual, improving self-cognition so as to reduce certain prejudices as much as possible. Apply critical thinking to work, improve, and try to have more empathy while being respectful to others. This will all play a role in reducing conflict. We hope that by improving collaboration between organizations and individuals, we can increase their trust and give more suggestions for improvement. That's all we have to say today. Thank you.